Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Lume
Plotters News Network.
Oof, that's a big
yes.
mouthful. The Lume Plotters News Network, LNN. LPNN.
Yes.
Okay.
LPNN. Yes.
Wow.
The reason we're the news network today, because today we're going to discuss some things going on in the world related to watches. So it's essentially a news
prices. Should we put the big ones first? The really big one?
No. We start with Apple, our favorite.
Okay. So
Apple, yes.
What happened?
Apple Watch specifically. Well, apparently, as we know, Apple released the Apple Watch Ultra 2, as well as the Apple Watch 9
Series 9,
October, September, something like this.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently they got sued by some small company in the US.
Which has a patent for the oxygen sensor, right?
Yes.
Somehow. Yeah.
So somehow they have the oxygen sensor patent. So they won this lawsuit. And Apple in the US is now forced to stop selling these two series of Apple Watches before Christmas.
Yeah.
So once again, you're listening to this after Christmas. But
unless they reach an agreement again, which could be. But I doubt it because obviously everybody is on vacation mode. So I don't think that these negotiations happen.
No.
One thing I have to say, this kind of litigation, Apple or other companies, Samsung, mobile phone companies, mobile technology companies, they're constantly suing each other. Doesn't mean they're enemies of each other, they hate each other or whatever. This is normal for patent negotiations, to have these kind of lawsuits, to file a lawsuit, then you reach an agreement and all of this stuff. You just to get a better negotiation position for your stuff. It doesn't mean Apple is evil or this other company is evil or whatever. It is just part of the deal.
There are times where two companies come up with the same technology independently of each other. That's how, technology moves forward.
Yeah,
it's not one person comes up with an invention or an innovation, multiple people can too.
Exactly. And then some people think like, okay, this is the patent and we know about the patent, but we think that our solution is significantly different or different enough so that we are not infringing this patent. Obviously,
exactly.
The court now ruled that's not the case. You have infringed this patent. And now this company can say what they want. And more or less, you have to stop selling it because you have infringed the patent. Now, many options they can sell.
There's
a
presidential review going on already. Yeah. So the presidential review has been opened, which means that Joe Biden will look over this, which is so
but he can't.
Stupid. This is once again
can't
talk
do this.
About the American.
No, but this is.
Yeah, you can.
No, that I think this news is not true.
It's on.
He can't reverse
my
this.
Source from. Yes, he can.
No,
he absolutely can. Forbes. I trust Forbes. I think Forbes knows what they're talking about here. If you look at the Forbes article on this, because I am a businessman and I read Forbes, it says the presidential review period ends on December 25. So the Biden administration can strike down the ruling.
That's that I don't.
But this is once again, this is the issue with the U.S. policies. Is why on earth would the president be able to intervene into patent law? It doesn't make any sense. Once again, the issue becomes that Apple is a huge tax revenue source for the U.S. government, and of course, they want to protect their own. This other company, Massimo, not to be confused with Massimo Dutti, has a net worth of $3 billion, and Apple, on the other hand, is I think in the trillions. So it is obviously one is more valuable to the U.S. than the other one.
Okay.
Which is, of course, not fair. But this is one of the reasons that the Biden administration can step in. But once again, this goes into the whole politics of everything, right? Should it be? Who knows?
No, I don't think they will. I mean,
know.
President Biden can. Okay, I see that now. He can veto this, but I don't think the ITC is something that he wants to meddle with, because they are supposed to be more or less independent there. And
yes,
I don't think he will. I don't think he will. No. I think they're looking.
I also
at
don't think it's him personally. It's not old man Biden sitting there with a pen. Oh, this is bad.
Well,
no, I think it's going to be
a presidential
his
power. But
yes,
in the end, it's him.
But that's an umbrella term, right? It's somebody else is going to make the decision, and he's going to sign it. Essentially, is what happens,
with his
right?
advisors.
It's his cabinet that is going to actually,
Yeah. Anyhow, I think
I'm pretty sure his advisors are doing most of the work anyway.
I think it's good. So it's good also for Apple to just sometimes lose their patent rows.
And this is one thing that I just shows
in check. Yeah.
That in this case, you have this mega monster power that is Apple, and they lost to the little guy.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show you there is hope in the world, and not everything is screwed up, right?
Yes, exactly.
And this could benefit Massimo in a large way, right? Because ultimately, Apple can pay off Massimo. They could buy the whole company. They could license the technology. Each one of these will result in Massimo getting a fat sum of money, which is nice.
Yeah.
Before this litigation started, I guarantee you, Apple may have even tried to reach out to Massimo, but with a much lower number, right? And they said, no, not good enough. And that could have been what caused this whole thing to start.
I think with Massimo, they had a bit of an issue before, because that they have poached some key personnel from the medical technology area, of course, of that company, and hired them.
Apple poached from Massimo?
They hired two.
Or Massimo poached?
No. Apple hired two Massimo executives and key engineers away from the company before. So they had some bad blood there.
Beef.
Yeah, obviously, right? Yeah. And anyhow, so it's good that whatever is the ruling will prevail, and I'm sure there will be a financial solution to it.
Or it will be a technical solution, which will be not very good, which essentially will mean Apple will disable the blood oxygen level sensor, whatever it is, in their watches.
Yeah, but it's
with a software update.
I think it's the old watches that are not. I mean, the sales are now affected, right, for new watches, and only for the new versions.
Only
of the
for
watch.
The new watches.
So
correct.
So let's see. Anyhow, so the thing is, the Apple Watch. As just the Apple Watch, the whole series of the Apple Watch series, all the watches that they're producing are bigger than the entire Swiss watch industry. They are selling,
which is a huge number.
Yes, they're selling about 53 million watches. That's, I think, I don't know how many billions of dollars it is.
Rolex makes one, crazy. They say, right? 1 million per year. And that's a fairly high scale watch manufacturer.
Yeah. And obviously Apple Watches are cheaper than a Rolex, but because of the massive amount, they are out revenuing the entire Swiss watch industry, which is crazy if you think about it, right? Just with the Apple Watch. A watch that didn't only come to the market, 7 years ago? 10 years ago? I don't even know. Probably.
Swatch, on the other hand, which, as we know, Swatch is a cheaper, you were saying price here, right? You're saying that Apple sells more because the Apple Watch is cheaper. Well, all of the Swatch group, including Swatch, sells 3.2 million.
Watches, yeah.
So,
no.
53.
Is that true?
Versus...
Yeah.
That's what I just... Let me quick
because Longines is about 1 million, I think, or isn't it?
Swatch annual production numbers. This could be just Swatch. I try to Google for just Swatch.
Yeah.
It's
probably
called annual estimate for your brand. It just says Swatch production is at 3.2.
Yeah, it's okay.
It might be, I think it's a bit just more. Swatch itself.
I think it's about 5 or so, maybe 6 million, whatever, the entire Swatch group and watches.
Then group. Let me put in group as a search term here.
Yeah. So
these things are not as liberally published and transparent as
though with the Swatch group, it's because it's a it's actually being listed on the stock exchange. There is a couple
I can't see any numbers.
Yeah.
I can't see any numbers for Swatch Group. So Swatch itself is 3.2. And those are cheaper than Apple Watches, right? So
I think we had these estimations from the Morgan Stanley reports and all of this stuff. So we can look at these later. But it's okay.
Exactly.
It's just like by volume and by revenue, it's just bigger than the entire Switch watch industry.
Yep.
So yeah, that was Apple. So if you don't have
number one,
I mean, obviously the ship has sailed. We will see soon what will be the agreement there.
You might already know what happens. Once again, we're recording this weeks in advance. So anyway,
years in advance.
All right, that was news number one. All right, Ralph.
By the time you listen to this
2?
episode, you will have the Apple Watch Ultra
5.
Exactly, and the Series 23. Yeah. Anyhow, what else happened? A big rumor, and maybe by the time you listen to this, you also know already. And the rumor is.
So then why are we mentioning it?
Yeah, it's a good point. Maybe,
why do we mention things?
Maybe we should put this
By
episode.
By the way, did you know the Titanic sank? Breaking news!
You know,
you heard it
2023 is over. No, I think maybe we should release this episode earlier. Rolex rumors another price increase. So apparently, 3 independent sources have confirmed this. That are ADs in Germany, at least, that there will be a 4.2% increase across the board. I mean, average increase on watch prices coming for Rolex at the 1st of January 2024, which is one of many price increases that we had in the last couple of years. Rolex.
But we need to mention also over increasing prices and certain brands not being able to sell anything.
I mean, these are the rumors are crazy. I mean, we heard that certain brands like Richemont brands that have increased prices a lot, like JLC, for example.
For instance, JLC increased their prices by 100%.
To certain models, That I think across they have most of them went up from 30 to 40%, right? So it's just a crazy increase, especially if you had
this is over a year.
Yeah, especially if you had a watch, for example, that is that you actually had a price when it was released, wasn't yet shipped, and when you actually can buy it, this watch, it has increased 30 to 40%. And that is insane. When you say like, okay, I put my name on a list, and then when you receive it, you have to pay 30 to 40% more. That just is very, very annoying.
Well, let me just put it this way. We had my Reverso, 25,600 dirhams was the retail price.
So about $7,000, right, for the listeners.
I reserved one at the Dubai Mall boutique. Showed up the next morning, price had gone up to 28,800. I got pissed. I was not happy with that. I said, listen, I reserved it yesterday with the old pricing, and now all of a sudden, magically, you couldn't have told me that there was a price increase. I would have come the previous night.
Yeah.
This is not an issue for me for 3,000 something dirhams.
Yeah.
So long story short, I ended up buying it at the 28.8. And then now, and since then, it had a number of increases. So now it retails for over 40,000 dirhams.
Wow.
Back when it used to be 20.
So that's another
1,000 dirhams.
It's another $2,500 more for the same watch.
It's insane.
It's crazy.
And the watch hadn't changed.
No.
In fact, it was discontinued. But the remaining pieces still get a price increase.
Well, we heard that now in the last couple of years, JLC looked at their cost base and realized that some of their watches they actually make very, very minuscule profits on, like 100, 200 Swiss francs on selling a watch that is worth nearly $10,000. That doesn't make any sense, obviously. You need to make a bit more money.
It does. We have a name for this. It's called a loss leader. You can lose money on a product and still be profitable by selling other products. And this is the problem with JLC, is they are losing money on the Reverso. Everybody wants a Reverso, and nobody buys anything else.
It's the wrong.
So they're doing it wrong.
It's the wrong loss leader. It's okay if you have a master control with a crazy complication that nobody buys. Though I actually like the Master Control a lot, for example.
I
And the
like 'em. I
Polaris.
like 'em all.
The Polaris as well.
Super cool.
Especially now that
aside from the 21 millimeter lugs. Why 21 millimeter lugs? Nobody knows.
Nah, this is always 21, 23, 27, whatever, these kind of numbers. When you think really,
the craziest one. My Santos 18.3. Not 18, not 19, 18.3.
18.3. You can still squeeze an 18 in it.
You put a 19 in it. That's what.
That's what I meant. The 19. You
can
can somehow squeeze it in there.
Crazy, but anyway, crazy. Point of story. JLC, awesome watches, awesome movements. They are,
but apparently they
fantastic.
have problems now selling for these prices, and I think that we will see this more and more. Omega has just, and that's the next news. Omega has just announced that they will decrease production in order not to flood the market and keep prices reasonable.
Well, let's get that. We don't tell us the next news before we're done with the first news.
But that is the news. Rolex increases the prices 4.2%.
No, Rolex increases. We have, but this is what I'm talking about. Is now we're still on the price increases. With JLC not being able to sell watches, we heard through the grapevine that there might be. How true this is, we don't know. But they sold, roughly a watch a month, and
in one of the boutiques,
stay alive. Yeah. Boutiques cannot. That was one boutique, of course, but boutiques cannot stay alive with one watch being sold a month. Now, the point of this story is there has been price decreases as well, also because of similar situations. Brands get hyped. Mm-hmm. They increase the prices. Everybody's all into it. And then all of a sudden the bubble bursts. And then what? You're left with overblown prices, nobody buying your watches, and certain brands like Girard-Perregaux had to reduce prices to get their watches moving again.
Which price did they reduce?
The Laureato. Well, they reduced it not officially, right? I guess it was reduced in terms of
offering discounts.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is the exact situation where actually I think the brands didn't want to go to, and that's why the Omega news is fitting, because Omega just doesn't want to give discounts again. So if you have too many watches, you know what? When they used to do it historically, they used to do the sell in. The sell into the market, mm-hmm. not the sell out. So that was, I think.
I pause for a second here because one of our listeners, Inesh, you're listening, I know. She told us that we got this wrong. I don't know exactly what sell in and sell through exact terminology is, mm-hmm. but last time we mentioned this, apparently we mixed it up. So this time.
So Mr. thank you for correcting me for not knowing what was right and what is wrong. Thank you. That helps. So I am not really.
I don't know what it is, but I have to put a caveat out there. So then, yes, at some point we were corrected on this.
Okay, then let me not use the terminology. Let me say what happened. Back in the days, the Swiss watch makers would just sell watches to their authorized dealers and consider this a sold watch. But the watch wasn't on the wrist of any end consumer, right? And
yes.
They only tracked this and they were happy that they sold as much. And then, of course, the local sales representatives for the brand would sell to their authorized dealers and say like, hey, you have to spend $1 million with our company and you have to take these watches. And they did. But then they actually also sold a lot of these watches back out of the back door to the gray market because they had too many watches lying around that they couldn't actually sell to end consumers. So they reverted to the gray market to sell in bulk these kind of watches. And that led to heavy discounting, the brands being available at gray market sites like whatever Authentic Watches and Joma Shop and all of these guys, and as heavy discounted watches, which then of course makes it even harder again for the authorized dealers to sell for normal non-discounted prices. In order to prevent this, if you track the sell of the watch to an end consumer, maybe the activation of the warranty, whatever it might be that you can track, mm-hmm. that then leads you to have a better understanding of what's the business really, what's the demand for these watches, and then
which watch, not just how the numbers, but which specific models are selling, as opposed to the whole offering.
And then it would be, of course, much more interesting to see and adjust your production capability. But I think, as we know, during COVID, everybody produced more watches or tried to produce more watches, which was hard because of supply chain issues and, of course, COVID itself. But the demand was insane. So people thought, well, that's the new normal. Everybody wants watches and everybody wants to buy like crazy. Production has been increased. And now it's like, oopsie daisy, 2 wars being fought, a bit of recession going around. And now the demand for watches has gone down.
Yes, but ultimately, this when we talk about Patek and Rolex, Rolex knew what was selling, and they purposefully, so we think, limited the production of those items, such as the Submariner, the Daytona, etc., because ultimately, Rolex. We could look at it through the other end as well. Look at the Nautilus and Patek, right? Patek is not the Nautilus, right? It is a series of watches. And if you look back in time, there was a percentage of watches which were not a lie. And if you look in the future, they would like to have the same thing. So essentially, they're limiting these numbers to protect their heritage moving forward. If in 100 years' time you look back and they say, oh, well, during 2022 to 2023, all there was Nautilus, it's weird, right?
Yeah.
So essentially they're protecting their brand's equity, their brand's heritage by limiting and looking forward, right? That's why Rolex kept selling Datejust and Oyster Perpetuals.
It is also just for the brand. It's really bad if you are defined by one simple model. See Richard
Audemars Piguet. I'm sorry.
Richard Mille.
Bless me.
I mean, they're different model numbers, but they're basically the same case shape.
The same exact one.
And for the uninitiated, they look like, well, it's the same watch. But
no, this one is red and this one is a burnt orange.
Yes, exactly. This has a rubber strap. But what I meant with that is that you are, of course, very vulnerable to trends, right? And that's when the trend changes and you're suddenly not anymore hyped, then you're stuck.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
exactly.
The idea, for example, the Code 1159 was one of this AP's tries to branch out, to create another really nice model that people like, that people want to buy. Not just the Royal Oak, not the Royal Oak, and the offshoots, the Royal Oak Offshore, the Royal Oak Offshore Diver, and so on and so on. Just go away from the Royal Oak line and
entirely
create a new line that is interesting. The beginning was a bit
rocky at first.
Was rocky. I think they now have created a solid watch. I love the new versions of it, the new dials. I think the watch, once you put it on your wrist, you feel. Again, like with certain Rolexes, you feel like, oh, that is just right. It feels really, really nice on the wrist.
It is.
It's a wonderful watch. And
especially our friend Mahmoud's with the sailcloth, the blue one with the sailcloth strap.
Oh, yeah.
The blue fume dial. Oh, it is
wonderful
stunning.
watch, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and also some complicated models that are coming out in this line. So I think they started and maybe a bit on the wrong foot, but I think they have found their grip and they now know what to do. And that's sometimes it needs a few iterations to slowly get the watch in the right area.
You have to remember, watch brands are glacial in the speed of their innovation, right? This is, how long did Oris take to make the Caliber 400? Something like 10 years.
Yeah, it takes time.
It was something ridiculous. We're talking decades. As opposed to, if you look at the car industry where it's within a year, you could have some significant changes.
Yeah.
Or even faster if we look at the computing industry, right? So
yeah, for sure.
This is, these watch brands are not looking, I heard this about Patek, right? They're not looking at what's going to happen in the next 10 years. They're looking at what's going to happen in the next century, right? They're protecting themselves in the very, very long term, which is very rare that brands look that far ahead. But they know that these are essentially products that no one needs, in which case you really have to be careful how to pose or how to put your brand forward.
For sure, for sure.
And that's what I think that AP is doing as well with this 1159. It's a very we hate using the word revolutionary, but it is a different watch than they're used to making. So yeah, it's going to take time, and it's been a few years now, but it's going to take time until it gets accepted.
Yeah. And also slightly adjust things to find the right, the right combination of things that actually is appreciated and bought. One thing is just you continue making the same thing, and people just get more used to it, or it's ahead of time, and suddenly you reach the time when it actually fits, right? Sometimes you have these watches that are just too far away from the zeitgeist or something. It's just And then a couple of like Alain Silberstein, right, watches. Now they're super famous and everybody wants them. Even the old one on his own brand, Alain Silberstein, the brand went bankrupt because it didn't sell the watches. But now everybody wants one because it wasn't the right time for that design. It wasn't as popular. We can
bring up the Daytona for this.
Sure,
right?
same.
Daytonas were given away for free if you bought anything else in the boutiques. There were articles, basically ads by jewelry stores or pawn shops saying, "We buy Rolex," and then in parentheses it would say, "Not Daytonas."
Yeah, they were really bad sellers. Nobody wanted them. But same with the Royal Oak in the beginning.
The Monaco.
Yeah, Monaco.
The only reason the Monaco became famous or popular or whatever you want to call it is because of Steve McQueen. So it was not selling. And so I don't know if it was Tag Heuer's decision or if it was just Steve McQueen saying, "I want to wear my watch in the movie." It was one of the two, but essentially, this is what pinned it as an iconic watch.
Yeah. Crazy. But this is the thing.
Right.
It takes time sometimes. Sometimes the time never comes.
Yes, exactly.
There's a fine line. There's a fine line between perseverance and being an idiot, right? Yes. Sometimes when people say like, "Oh, and this perseverance paid off," and yes, but it also can drive you into complete ruin. Right, and never pay off. You never know.
So this is exactly. There's these massive flops that somehow later on become popular for some reason, right? But it takes time.
Yeah.
All right.
And it is the survivorship.
Moving on from that,
the survivorship bias that you have, right? You don't see the people who actually, fell from the bandwagon during the time. You only see the ones that finally had success to tell the success story, right? Everybody else is already gone, so you don't see them. So that's why you always feel like, see, perseverance has led them to success, but it's not necessarily the case. Not always.
Exactly. I mean, there's tons of watches like this. I mean, we look at certain brands and we think of them as successful.
Yeah.
But you go back in time and you look at the models they were selling and how cheap they were selling for.
Oh, yeah.
Or how cheap they're selling on the. So I did a quick search yesterday, Zenith.
Okay.
And would we say Zenith is successful? I would say maybe. I don't know. They're definitely not a hyper successful brand. However, this is one of those brands where you can right now into eBay put in Zenith Vintage and just marvel at the results that come up. I saw a 1960s, 1970s, essentially it was a small little tonneau case, watch, 35mm, $350. And it was recently serviced. Absolutely stunning condition. It looked awesome. Definitely not, it's sold by a reputable seller as well. Show me another brand who's selling watches for 20, 30, 50, 40, 50K, 1,000 dirhams.
Yeah.
And then you can find one for $300 dollars as well. It's ridiculous, right? So once again, the zeitgeist is not there for these.
Yeah, and also Zenith is a brand that is relatively small. They sell under 30,000 watches a year, something like that, right? So it's a small brand. By any means, right? It's not many people are actually wearing these watches. So and of course the marketing budget is not that big either because you're not selling so many watches. So while they're doing well, I think the last couple of years they did very well. They have had some great successes. It's still a tough situation to be in with this smaller audience that you have. Yeah. But as if we don't have enough brands currently on the market, we have another news.
Okay. Before we get to the other news, we need to talk about something we forgot to do.
The wrist check?
The wrist check.
Whoa. Yes. So.
Yes. All right.
What's on your wrist? Start.
I'm still wearing my new Oris. I'm still wearing my new Oris, the Hodinkee limited edition. Once again, I got this. There's only 400 of them because it's caliber 400.
When did it initially come out? Which year?
August 2021.
Okay.
So it's 2 years old. Not very many right now. Currently, there's 2 listed for sale in the world. There was 3. I picked up 1. 2 of them are listed above retail, around $5,000 US, which is the retail price was $4,000 US.
Yeah.
The one that I found, luckily, I got it at a fairly good deal. I paid about half of a retail price.
Very nice.
$2,200. And then I think that was a decent deal. Because once again, they're few and far between, but at the same time, are they highly sought after? I don't think so.
And the thing is always when you say like, look at how much they are listed at Chrono24. Yeah, that's the reason they are still listed and not sold.
Exactly.
Because the price.
So, no, this guy I saw on eBay, he listed it for $2,750. And immediately when you listed at that price, I knew there was a deal to be made there.
Okay.
So we went back and forth for a couple weeks, actually.
Congratulations again for that pickup.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Indeed.
I'm in love with it. I've been wearing it 4 or 5 days straight now, and I still love it. It ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice and fuzzy and warm. It's getting cold outside.
As we said before.
Yeah.
This is it's a sweater weather. It's a sweater weather watch, right?
So actually not on my wrist, but the watch I have planned originally to wear, and then last second I changed it, was actually my Bling Master yellow gold plated GMW B5000 from Casio, the G-Shock, the metal square, because it's very Christmassy. It's gold, right? It has these, Christmas vibes. And wearing these kind of big, chunky yellow gold watch on your wrist is a bit weird sometimes, but you get used to it. Especially if it's a G-Shock, it's not too much.
It's funny you mention this because I'm still scrolling Amazon. Here it is. The problem is the price used to, this is of course the one I want to rebuy. I had an issue with the display on the one that I was getting, so I'm waiting for the price to go back down again. But it's only going up, sadly, on Amazon. It's about 500 dirhams higher than where it was.
Maybe wait after Christmas, after the holiday season, right?
But I will rebuy the silver version of this watch for sure. It's coming back.
All right. So, what else? Yeah, the next news. So, while we talked about this, we said that Omega is bringing down the production apparently to just make sure that they are not overproducing and not leading to that situation that watches end up with high discounts. So obviously there is also shops need to have something to sell. So if it's not a boutique, right? If it's an authorized dealer and you're saying like, hey, I'm reducing the production, well, they need to have something to sell. Obviously, they need to get watches delivered. So it's not that they are not producing anything. They're just slightly reducing the output. And also that can only go up to a certain limit, right? You have a limit of how much you can scale down your production, right? So let's see what happens. I don't think it will be massive change, but we see that companies are actually reacting to the new situation. And another company that is reacting to these situations, a company that we have looked at before a lot, I am a fan of the brand itself, is Breitling. And Breitling has apparently, George Kern has apparently for the last 2 years tried to acquire another brand. And they has worked on it for a long time. This brand is owned by the Stelux company, the Stelux Holding from Hong Kong. And it's a very, very reputed company that had its headquarters at the Rue de Rhône in Geneva, just between the Rolex headquarters and the Patek Philippe headquarters. And that brand is Universal Geneve.
Universal Geneve.
Or Universal Geneve. Or Universal.
What did you
Universal Geneve? UG.
Universal. I've never heard anybody say UG.
Yeah.
I don't think UG is a thing.
No, it's not a thing.
Universal Geneve.
Anyhow, so this brand has been, it produces watches currently, apparently, some ITA-based.
They still do?
Yeah, but so they have been relaunched. So at some stage, they have been bought at 1989 by this company from Hong Kong, and they have done some kind of relaunch with it, but nobody actually knows really about it. It was really not very well done. So this deal is
I'm assuming I have an idea of what kind of watches they make.
Yeah, $68 million have been paid or will be paid over the next 5 years from Breitling to Stellux, and they own the brand now. So while we are talking, they have the rights to use the brand. They will relaunch. George Kern has come out and said publicly how much that means to them, how they are conscious about the enormous weight of the history of the brand, and they don't want to do it too quick. They will take their time, will put the A-team on it. It will be independent from Breitling, the independent management from Breitling, and they will make sure that they honor the brand as much as they can because they have a very, very big fan following. Universal Geneve is on the enthusiast level very strong. A lot of people love the brand.
It's huge. Yeah, exactly.
There are.
By the way, looking I don't think they.
Do you have any models that you have in mind that you remember that have been very, very popular?
Obviously. Our good friend Gerald Genta
has designed which one?
The Polerouter.
Yeah, and somebody said this in the podcast. It sounds like somebody's wife's. She's dancing as a Polerouter, and then of course it's a joke, right? If you think like, oh, well,
yes.
like a pole dancing or something. So what is the Polerouter? What is this name? I mean, it was designed by Gerald Genta. So that obviously
it is a flight watch, right?
Yeah.
It was a flight watch worn by NWA. No, what was it? Oh, TWA. TWA.
Both airlines existed. I think not Trans World Airlines.
Which one's the red one?
I don't know.
Trans World. Yeah, TWA. So it was TWA airline pilots were wearing them. Polerouter, obviously routing through the pole, the north-south pole. It had a crosshair pattern on the dial, but what this had to do with any type of navigation besides time.
Well, time was very important for navigation, right? That's why we have marine chronometers. Knowing the exact time helps you to navigate with the stars.
I know for a fact, I know for a speculation, I should say, that this is going to be a relaunch of the Polerouter line, just like IWC relaunched the Gerald Genta inspired Ingenieur. We're going to see a Gerald Genta inspired Polerouter coming very soon.
Yeah. So I think
this is Breitling's way of hopping onto this bandwagon.
Well, they have now the rights to a Gerald Genta design, which is great. But they have also the compacts line, the Aero compacts, the Medico compacts, the Tri compacts, the blah, blah, blah. Wonderful stuff. I don't know how far it reaches, how many movements they will take from Universal Geneve and reinvigorate or update or make them possible there.
Well, do they need to? No, technically, because look at it. They have their, if we look at the Polerouter is a 3-hand, sometimes with a date. Boom, you take the Tudor movement. For the chronographs, you're going to take the B01 movement and you are golden.
But they have already stated that they will, that Universal Geneve will be above Breitling.
Why?
Because, and I can tell you a very simple...
This was an entry-level brand back in the day.
No, it wasn't. It was between JLC and
entry-level,
Patek.
But it was not... Was it?
Mm-hmm.
Was it?
Yo.
I thought it was always a low-level brand because I mean you could buy them for so cheap. I figured this was not a.
I don't think it was that from a perception. I think it was at that level, but at that time also the other brands didn't make only super high-level watches, right? So I think it was considered to be somewhere between there. So I think it's a very simple reason. Breitling has a very, very strong base between the 3,000 to 8,000 euro range, which is where they are very strong. And people think that this is really good value for money at Breitling. Great quality, solid stuff, cool designs, and that's their core market. They have their own tourbillons, they have their own other precious metal watches that go up to the $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 range. But do they sell well? I don't know, because that's the typical thing. You have watches that are your core, and then you have these super halo products, but do they actually sell? And that's the next question. I think in order to move up market, Breitling has reached, I think, a level where you're saying, okay, $10,000, $12,000, $13,000, $15,000. That's like the range where Breitling ends, and you need to have something else. You know, like Seiko with Grand Seiko and Credo and King Seiko.
Yeah.
You have a limit where you're saying, okay, this, as long as we make the cheaper ones, we need something, maybe a different brand.
Yeah.
And that's perfect. That's the solution to all the issues. You have a new brand now that has a ton of history, you have a great back catalog to explore, even a Gerald Genta design in the package. And you can now start, and I think we will see something $15,000, $20,000 first, something expensive first, and then slowly a bit more, like Biver, right? When we had this interview with him, start on the top and then slowly go down. Easier than start on the bottom and go up. It's much easier from a luxury perspective to start on the top.
So
if you have something
in the meanwhile, while you're
works.
talking here, I'm Googling.
Okay.
A few corrections I want to make.
Okay.
First and foremost, it was never autorology. It was always a workhorse watch.
Mm-hmm.
So they were not high. They were one of the largest players in the Swiss watch industry. But then again, Rolex is one of the biggest players now in this. So I would say it was more along
Rolex is not autorology either. Yeah.
No, exactly. So I think it was more of a workhorse watch, like an Omega, as opposed to a Patek. They did have some crazy movements, some micro rotor movements, etc. But it is, at the time, it would have been on par with Breitling and Zenith and these guys.
Yeah.
But then again, JLC was always kind of above these brands. So I want to kind of point out that I think these were never above JLC. They were.
I think it depends on which time you go. I mean, if you go to the 30th and 40th,
I'm looking
probably
at 50s through 60s.
Well, they started making watches in 1817 or so.
1800s.
Yeah.
1890 something.
Yeah. Anyhow, so I think I think as a
but they always used in-house movements.
Yeah,
they were in-house, which was rare.
Yeah, that is true.
Okay. The other thing I want to correct, it was not TWA Airlines, it was Scandinavian Airlines. It was SAS. And I want to read this line. The Polerouter's durability under extreme temperatures and fluctuating altitudes made it the preferred timepiece among Scandinavian Airlines pilots who made routine flights over the Arctic. Hence the name Polerouter.
Okay.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Now it makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah. So one of the other things is that their distributor in the United States was the same distributor that distributed Patek Philippe, which was the Henri Stern Watch Agency.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So they have been in a not autorology. You're right there, but they have done they have been more respected at the time, right? Yeah. But what to do? I think it's a good idea to have this brand on top of Breitling because you're just having a solution to all your problems.
Well, Breitling is moving down market, right? This is the big push for Breitling is to go down. No. This is what they've been doing. They've been Come on. Yes.
No, that's not
Breitling
down market.
Navitimer. Let's take the Navitimer for not down market. No, but it is lower tiered than, for instance, let's say, I don't know. It's definitely under Rolex.
Is it
100%? Well, it's using Tudor movements, which is by default, okay, I would put it, if we're going to do some rankings, some Nico Leonard style rankings here, I would say it is above Tudor.
I think we would have
but not
no
by
agreement.
much. Okay, that's an episode. I will put it on the list of episodes to do. We will do a brand
fight tooth and nails.
list. We will absolutely. Okay, but now here's the important thing here.
Okay.
So, in this case, it was announced before George Kern that they wanted to make cheaper watches for the Asian market, right? Smaller and cheaper. That's what their goal was. Yes, George Kern came back and started reintroducing some of the classic lines, more expensive watches. But ultimately, you're still stuck with half a catalog of quartz watches that are under $2,000. And at that point, you cannot tell me this is a Tag Heuer equivalent.
Which watches can you buy from Breitling under $2,000 at the moment?
Is the Chronomat? The one that's the plastic case?
That's not $2,000. That's more.
Breitling. So, in the meantime, while we're going,
these are the. Do you mean the professional, right? They are like $3,000. They're about $3,000, $3,500, and that is
discount.
But this is a no.
Okay, Avenger is $2,000.
Which Avenger for ladies?
Oh, sorry. I apologize. This is AUD, not AED. Why it's telling me Australian dollar pricing? So I saw. Whoopsies.
Oh.
No, that's not the one that I was looking at. But
see,
okay,
I think if you look at the normal watches, just the normal automatic versions, 3-hand date, on that you're going at $3,000, $3,500, $4,000.
Okay.
There's nothing underneath that. So I think even the quartz are $3,000, right? So
the endurances were what I was thinking
correct,
of.
The professional line.
Endurance. Yeah.
But then you go, you go up to the golden premier ones with 15,000, 20,000. Then you have the Datora, which is like also
the Datora is a special
13,000, 14,000. Yeah, and it's a great watch. It's a beautiful watch. But even the Super Ocean 36 is 4,000 pounds at the moment. I think $4,000 then at least.
That doesn't mean it's a $4,000 watch.
No, but that's the list price. What can you do? Right?
Is it selling? Walk into Breitling, ask for a discount.
And?
They will give you 20%.
Not anymore.
I was there yesterday. In
the Breitling boutique or in the
Siddiqui? No, the Siddiqui boutique.
Okay.
And they're giving massive discounts. So last time I checked, they did 20, then they were doing 15 for a while.
Announced,
yesterday they said 15.
Yeah, they have just announced for the Dubai-based boutiques that there will be no more discounts. Of course, how long can you do it if you're not selling anything? Or if you sell less than you wanted to?
Yeah.
Obviously, you have to then start giving certain discounts at some stage. But that's the challenge I think everybody has at the moment. So what I'm saying is Breitling is in that range from $3,000 to $8,000 where they are strong. That's their core.
So the Tudor range.
Yeah. Up to the entry level Rolex range. There's a small overlap, right? I mean, $10,000.
Tudor has solid gold watches.
Sure, they always have a few exceptions, but
one.
You can also buy a Rolex for whatever, nearly $100,000 if you want to go with a tourbillon in gold.
Yeah.
So you can, but what I'm saying is it's not that they are competing with a Patek Philippe, right? So that's their core, and it's I think putting Universal Geneve on top of that and just exploring all of this growth that you can have there, and with a very historic brand, perfect. Go for it.
In my opinion, this is kind of your something has to happen because once again, from my understanding, Universal Geneve is on par with Breitling. So for them to have it as a more expensive, then again, who cares? Remember, if I remember,
nobody knows Universal Geneve except watch enthusiasts.
But this was an issue that Swatch Group faced when they were rebooting Longines and Omega, right? They had two brands in their hands, and they were saying they were used to be on par with each other. And they said one of them has to be above the other. And what did they do? They picked Omega to be on top just because it was easier to pronounce. So the name Longines they felt was too difficult. So Omega became the higher end and Longines, but traditionally they were the same level.
See, I think why it's so genius to do this from Judge Kern is that there is nothing under $3,000. This market will die. We already see this. Everybody wants to go above this magical threshold of $3,000. Everybody wants to push up market because everything under that amount of money is selling. The volume of Swiss watches under $3,000 is shrinking. There are exceptions. There are some micro brands that are doing well. There's
I was going to just about to say this is I think that the reason this market is shrinking is not because it's the Swiss are not making these watches. It's because of the rise of these micro brands. Yeah. Why would I buy a $2,000 Tag Heuer quartz when for $2,000 I could get one hell of a Baltic, for instance?
Yes,
with a chronograph movement or a micro rotor movement for $500.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. It's not made in Switzerland
or Nodus or whatever these other watches. Yeah, very good ones.
Yeah. There's so many of them that obviously this is...
I see that the Swiss are fighting back, like with the PRX and with the recent Tissot and also Longines launches, which are incredible. But they're also very close to the 3,000.
Prices are also going up.
They are also in that rare
They used
area.
To be cheaper.
Yeah. So that's why I think this is still the market which is not shrinking, at least not at the moment, in general terms. And I'm completely generalizing here, right? But you want to be above the 3,000 market, 3,000 Swiss francs or dollars. And it's good to have something on top there because now you have a brand that you can say, we start maybe a bit more for the enthusiast and up level. So really make precious watches. Not precious metals or anything like that. That will come as well. But I think you will do they will do something out there, I think. And they will start high and then pad out the product line. I don't know if they will start with just one mod or one model or one line, or if they will really start with 2 or 3 different lines. Hard to say because when will they launch? We don't know. We don't know anything about it yet. Nothing has been announced yet. It just said we will take our time to live up to that weight of the history and the weight of what people expect from us. So it's they don't take it lightly. So I hope they make the right decisions. But yeah, Breitling in itself, I'm super happy with my old Breitling. I'm just really not going to sell this anymore.
I don't know. Call us old men, I think, but ultimately,
grumpy old man.
I feel everything old is better than everything new. Like, oh yeah, the old Breitlings, those used to be awesome. The old Mercedes, those used to be awesome. The old Apple products, those used to be the ones. And this is kind of our thing, is we are biased in that way.
I don't know. I think that
because they came out when we were younger,
young and impressionable. Yeah, but I think that's to a certain extent is right. We are more familiar with these designs, but I think, for example, the new Avenger is cool. I wish they have kept
because it's the old Avenger.
Maybe, yeah, because it didn't change much.
Re-released.
So I would love to have them to keep the winged logo on at least the pilot's watches.
Yes.
But hey,
I hate the B logo. Yeah, I can't.
I like this in the Premier collection. I think the B logo was very elegant on these Premier collection and these watches and the entire Premier line, which is new, right? More newer than others. I really like that, and I think they're doing a good job. Like the Datora, for example. Does it sell with a discount pre-owned? It does. There's not many Breitlings that sell with a premium.
But it's a good looking, but it's a chunky boy. The
big problem with these watches are they're all tall, right? They are not, and that actually unfortunately leads to it not being, the most elegant, right?
Super sought after, exactly. And this is one of the issues. But all right, wrapping that up, do you have any other news for us today?
Me? No.
Or I don't know.
I don't think I have more news. I think that's a lot of news, no?
That's a lot of news. No more points to discuss.
I don't know.
One thing that I wanted to bring up that we were discussing on the phone, discussing it when I told you about the Oris, we started talking about Oris. And this is one thing I kind of want to wrap up with, is when we're talking about the way these watch brands are moving. And you mentioned that these watch brands are now targeting this magical $3,000 mark.
Yep.
When I looked at this Oris Diver 65 with the caliber 400, and this goes for every other watch. They have the Your Oris as well with the caliber 400. If you look at the prices, roughly $2,000 for a Sellita base, or $4,000 for the caliber 400 version. So one is super low end, not super low end, but lower end. The other one is fairly mid-range.
Yeah.
So what on earth are they doing? I mean, once again, it's different when they have a line like the ProPilot X, where everything is done with a caliber 400, so you only have one price.
Yeah.
But imagine Joe Schmo coming into the boutique and he says, this watch, which looks identical to this watch, one is $2,000, one is $4,000, and you as the salesperson have to explain to him why that watch costs double because it's an in-house movement. And to me, this is a very, very strange dilemma. How?
Yeah, I think
this be justified?
I think this is true. It is true on so many fronts when you have different, let's say, materials as well. So my metal squares, they go from $400 to $2,000, right?
Yeah.
It's the same watch. It's the same module in it. It's literally the same watch inside. It's just the case and the bracelet that is different. Is a carbon fiber bracelet and watch worth $1,500 extra? It isn't, because carbon fiber is easy to machine, is not as expensive as they might want us to think. So it's not really, and you have in a $200 watch, you have carbon core, right? You remember this in the Casio G-Shocks. You actually have a
correct.
A suspension system inside that is made from carbon fiber. So,
and then on the more expensive watches, they change it to stainless steel. But then for because I have the one with the stainless steel core, which was an upgrade.
So whatever.
But then at the same time,
yeah.
So it goes carbon, stainless steel, and then above that carbon again.
Yeah. So
logic.
So what I'm saying is, this is the challenge there, to actually explain that to people, that this is the same watch. It has the same functionality. It does everything exactly the same, but it's just 4 times the price. But if you look at the Swiss watch exports for the last 10, 15 years or so, you see they have made about 30 million pieces a year. And this is the entire watch industry and Swiss watch industry. Yeah. And they are now down. They have been down in 2019, which was the worst year for them, with about 14 million watches. But they're now back to 16 million, slightly below 16 million in 2022. Which was one of the best years in, the last 4 years.
60 years. 60?
16, yeah. So they have from 29.8 in 2011.
So sorry, once again, in 2019, what was the number?
20.6 in 2019.
And then it went down
to 13.8.
And then up
in
to
2020,
16.
2021, 15.7, and then 15.8. But my point is, it's half of what happened in 2011 by volume, not by revenue, just by the amount of watches. So that means, in general, the revenue has gone up, but the amount of watches have halved. So that means that watches are getting more and more expensive. You're selling less, but for higher prices. This is what I'm thinking. And that's why you need to get
So these Orises, if our good friend Rolf says, okay, we're phasing out Sellita, it makes total sense. But then Oris is going to be at a higher price point than it was before, right? But having, or if he says, let's have 2 lines of watches, distinct lines. One will have the older ones, older movements, the Sellitas. The other one will have the in-house movements. But having the same watch, the same line with 2 movements, it's just people don't understand it. Look at Diver 65. They have one with a 12-hour bezel with the 400 movement.
Yep.
It looks identical to another watch, which is called the Oris Diver 65 Glow, which does not have that movement. And they're the same size. They're the same shape. They're the same color.
100%.
Riddle me that.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. It's very hard to explain to somebody why the same watch with a different movement is more,
double
the price.
Not more, double.
The price for let's say, I don't know the price for of course the Oris movement, but because it's an in-house movement, but I know Judo, the Kinesi movement, the 300, the MT54XX, whatever it's
1-2.
Yeah, doesn't matter. So just the normal time only with date watch is about 450 to 600 Swiss francs for that movement. If you want a top grade ETA, Celita, Soprot, whatever similar movement, you're not spending more than 200 for chronometer certified. Something about between 200 to 50 Swiss francs if you take volume. So that's half the price for the movement.
Yeah.
Half or less than half of the price.
So if I have a $2,000 watch and I want to add this movement in, I still have to make up the research and development that went into it as well. So if it costs 600 to produce.
Yeah, the thing is with most of these newer movements from La Jouperet and Soprot and these other STP and all of these companies, they are more or less drop-in compatible with the old Celitas and stuff. They're better. Yeah, they have further developed.
But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about they had to develop these movements to begin with.
Yeah, sure.
Right? So are you saying these cost 600 to buy or they cost 600 to manufacture?
No, they cost to buy for a brand.
To buy third party. So this is already incorporating the profit that brand is going to...
absolutely. That's the cost for you. If you go to Kinesi and say, like, I want to have whatever, 1,000 of these movements, that's what it costs.
So in this case, so
again, these prices are not public. These prices are obviously everybody is not releasing them publicly.
Speculating. Yeah.
But this is what industry insiders are saying, right? These are the price ranges roughly. So
Interesting. So basically, they're still marking it up by probably double.
Minimum. Usually the industry standard is 3.
The number of movements made by Oris is going to be far less than those made by Kinesi. So it could be that they cost more. Once again, they are they're finer than chronometer certified. The tolerances are lower.
Yes, but they're not certified because the certificate
twin barrel.
They say the specifications are better than chronometer, but they're not certified. The certification costs money. That is another, 30, 40 Swiss francs per movement at least.
But dual barrel, 5-day power reserve. And obviously, I mean, this is not rocket science. 1 barrel costs less than 2 barrels. And Tudor, Tudor/Kinesi, they're using regular 70-hour power reserve, single barrel movements. So that is going to cost more. And it's going to cost more than a little extra because it's going to be additional parts, not to mention 10-year warranty. That's going to be another huge jump because that means they have to manufacture
10-year warranty,
to 100%. Tolerances.
You have to, right? That is also, this is a liability for you as a company. If you offer a 10-year warranty, you have to put money aside for these claims.
Because if they all break, then you're going to be screwed.
Totally.
Right? You have to fix them all.
You have, this has to be considered in the selling cost, obviously. These kind of warranties.
Yeah, exactly. And this is one of the things that, I mentioned, by the way, there's a difference between reliability and warranty. So at this point, these movements are too new for us to know how reliable they are, being that they're only 2 years old.
Yeah.
But they would have had to do a lot of research and development to know, in our interview, right? Rolf Studer was talking about the oils that they use, how it had to be developed specifically for the longevity of these 10-year service intervals.
Yeah.
So who knows, ultimately, at the end of the day, what are we talking about? Who even cares? Right?
Yes, exactly. Who cares?
And they're just trinkets on our wrist.
Yeah. See, I now have, since my Oris has a Celita movement in it, I think, SW200.
Yes.
same as my Breitling, right? My Breitling also, well, it was an ETA 2824, but it's the same design, more or less. So basically what I'm saying is 38 hours power reserve. I realized that I really enjoy my watches when they have a longer power reserve.
Yeah.
I really feel when I change my watches daily, I have a lot of watches that are continuing to run just because I change them. Yeah.
I know.
Or I wind them up. The watches that always stop are these ones that have like under 40 hour power reserve. And
Correct.
it's not a big deal, but I feel sometimes a bit like, it would be nice, right? I think 70 hours is something that everybody should do.
I think you and I have both made a decision on not wearing a watch because you didn't want to wind and set it. And this to me, for me, the Speedy is the biggest culprit in this with its 40-hour power reserve, 38, I think it is, something like that, 48, 38. I don't even know. But the problem is it also doesn't have hacking seconds. So for me to set it correctly, properly, whatever, it's a pain. Because I am an OCD guy and I want to make sure the second hand is exactly at 0 when the minute markers are exactly lined up. With this, I haven't even tried the Oris 120 hours, but the 70-hour watches that I have, my Grand Seikos, my Rolex, what else do I have that's 70 hours? I don't even know.
But all the Tudors will have
guys,
that. Yeah. You don't have a Tudor anymore.
They just keep going. I don't. I bid on one in the auction.
Oh,
we'll see what happens. Yeah. Another FXD, guys, number 3, lucky number 3. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But ultimately, they keep going, and it's so nice.
Yeah, it is nice to be able to just pick the watch up. I mean,
you have a proper rotation, and the watch keeps running.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really something. I mean, I also like to wind my watches. I like sometimes to sit down, just fiddle around with them.
When you have time.
Yes, when I have time.
But when you're running out the door, half the time I do have a stop or a roundabout that gets backed up by my house going to work. And 90% of the time I'm late for work because my tolerances are very low. COSC certified to getting to to university. I budget 10 minutes door to door, and it's about 8 minutes or something. So in this, I'm stuck at this roundabout for probably 5 because I live very close. And during that 5 minutes, I wind and set my watch.
Okay.
Multitasking. So luckily there's no laws stating you can't wind and set a watch while driving. If it was a screen, that'd be a different story.
If it would be a smartwatch,
nonetheless. If it was a smartwatch, I'd be in trouble.
But then you don't have to set it.
But this is.
I think this is very interesting there. But I always feel like these watch producers like Sellita, and I think that they are working on it. They have newer versions. They have the SW100. They have a couple of new versions coming out soon that are based on these traditional designs, but with a higher power reserve. Are they 70 hours? No. I think they're still not there. They are 50 to 60 or something. But I think the Swatch Group themselves, for their own watches, they don't use standard ETA 2824 anymore. Most of the Swatch brands. They use all the updated versions.
They reduced it to 3 hertz so that they can get 80 hours.
Yeah. But with the same...
What stops you from doing that with a regular
Exactly. Why doesn't... I mean, it's not copyrighted anymore. So you can take that design, and if the Swatch Group can update it, you can do that too. So that's exactly my point. You can use this as a base and then create your own movement. I know creating your own movement takes
56 hours, by the way. 56 hours.
Is your Speedmaster?
No. This is the Sellita, the new Sellitas.
The new Sellitas, yeah. So that's
not
SW
bad. SW 330, they call it.
Okay, so that's already quite good. That's based on the
56, but it's still not 70. I mean,
that's based on the 2892, right?
300.
Yeah, but that's
the 300 is a 2892, and then the 330 is the updated 300.
Yeah, and then they have the SW 500, which is based on the 7750, and they also have an SW 400 now, which is an updated version of the SW 200, which is 41 hours of power reserve, which is 3 hours more, which is not really that great, right? So let's see. I think there's more coming. There's more coming. The SW 210.
Let's see.
SW100. And so on and so on. So I think they are working on it, and more to come. Then we have La Jouperet with great movements as well. Soprod, STP, Chronote, all of these. Chronote is much higher. But there are, I think, more Kinesi, of course, themselves, and there's a lot of other manufacturers now coming up with movements eventually. Oris might start selling their movement to others if they wanted to.
Well, Oris, that actually wouldn't be a terrible idea because, they could stand to make a few dollars off of it.
This is one of the...
But remember, they have a 10-day movement.
Yes, exactly. They have, which is...
With one barrel that takes up about half the watch. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
It's like the Lange with, 90 days? They have one.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, they only put it in one watch, this 10-day movement.
So what Kinesi and Tudor did well, I think, was that they said, well, we start with Tudor. They designed their movements for Tudor themselves, founded Kinesi because they said, we can only reach proper prices if we produce more than we need ourselves. Mm-hmm. Right? So we are producing our own, 300,000 movements for our own watches. But if we want to make these for ourselves cheaper, we need to produce more than that. And they did. So they're now selling to other brands with slight changes. So for example, nobody else will get a silicium hairspring, for example, silicone hairspring. So that's how they keep it a bit separate, to say, okay. And everybody still gets their own manufacture movement because they make some little things differently so that you can call it a manufacture movement. So you can sort of call it not in-house, but manufacture.
Yep. All right. On that bombshell, we've gone over time. Everything is bad.
Business is bad.
Everything's horrible.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Business is bad. It's
rubbish. It's all rubbish. We should get out of this hobby. No.
I keep saying this. I mean, why the hell are we even in this hobby? Oh my God. We could have had something better. We could have had, or worse, I don't even know. Well, imagine if we would have got into, coin collecting.
No. Coin collecting is so hard. It's hard because coin collectors are getting less and less. If you have a coin collection, where do you sell it anymore? It's hard.
The reason I mention this, guys, look on eBay, see that Zenith that was $350, buy it now, and look at the guy's other items he's selling. He's a coin collector from Belgrade, and he has all these Serbian coins or Bulgarian or whatever they were. So Albanian, maybe, I don't even remember. But anyway, long story short, the guy apparently fixes up watches and then also collects coins.
Yeah.
So on that bombshell, guys, it's time to end. We'll have another interview for you next Friday. Mm-hmm. And then back with our episodes on Tuesdays as usual. So
alrighty.
We hope you enjoyed today's ramblings.
Yes. We will hear you soon. Bye-bye.
Absolutely. See you. Bye-bye.